Alright, everyone, welcome back. This is going to be the part two of the E3 predictions podcast that we're coming up with here. Episode one, we basically went through Xbox and PlayStation, both the probable and the wild card on that. A lot of hurt feelings in that episode. You can go back and watch our misery. Plenty more to come, too, don't worry. Still here with the captain himself, Darian.
Hello. I'm alive somehow. Let's see how this goes.
See how it lasts, right? Alright. We're gonna be starting off this one with Nintendo and then finishing with Wild Card. Probably gonna be the same kind of length episode because the third party stuff's gonna kind of be a little bit of everybody that's not the main three, so kind of got a little bit of salad mix in there, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, knowing us, it's probably going to devolve into spitballing more and more stuff out there. So bear with us as we spew out our hopes, dreams, and delusions.
Yeah, that third part especially. The hell do we know, right? Um, I guess I can start off with this one. We'll start with Nintendo here. The probable guesses. Um, this one's already been announced, but I'm saying gameplay and release date for Metroid 4. Because it's been quite long enough. There's been pretty much no word on it since its first official launch. I think it'd be about time since really Switch doesn't have anything after this year that we know about. They don't really have anything after Animal Crossing of this year. Like it's kind of a very slow, quiet time for the Switch right now. Um, I would the second guess on here kind of goes off of the Microsoft one a little bit. I think that Switch might swing in with the Rare collection because they're obviously brewing stuff up behind the scenes with Microsoft to give them the rights to put what was formerly a shit ton of Nintendo games over onto the Xbox. So I think that they're gonna dip their fingers in that pot a little bit too. I don't know if it's gonna be maybe more rare stuff added in or just the same standard package all packed in, but I mean, either way, I'd be happy with it. Even if for some loophole they had to not include the 360 rare titles, even if it was like the old just N64 ones or something for some kind of licensing reason or something, people would still be plenty happy with that. And I got one more on the probable that I think is the most likely thing that I'm probably going to say tonight, and that's going to be a Pokken Tournament 2. Just because of how hellaciously popular that game still is now, and how big it is over in Japan, just in the tournament scene and the arcade scene and everything. That one just seems like it's going to be a given for just something new. If it's not a humongous update, it's going to be a new game. Because that one's just. There hasn't really been anything out for it yet. There hasn't been any new Pokemon updates, any new title updates, even, for quite a while on that. So I could see that definitely being something that either we're going to get a spin off of that or something similar to it or just a straight sequel to that.
I'm just sitting over here nodding my head to all of that there. It makes sense, and I have some similar stuff there too. You might as well throw out the wild card stuff because this is about the point. But go and listen to the first episode. I warned you guys that my list kind of slowly devolves into just a mashed together thing. And yeah, for Nintendo especially, I don't really have a real distinguisher between probable and wild card. Kind of have them listed more realistic to less realistic, and
Right.
got lucky with one that from the time that I was starting on the list now got confirmed, but we'll get there. So yeah, why don't you just give them whatever else you got, and then I'll
Nintendo's so up in the air that it's any of these could be just as equally a wild card or probable. We don't really know what the hell's going on with Nintendo.
It's because they're a probable wild card.
Right, right. Um, I'll say the wild cards for me would be the ones that I would absolutely lose my shit if they came out. So, the first one is a Grand Theft Auto in any shape or form. I think that what I would like more is that San Andreas stories that we're missing, since we have Liberty City and Vice City stories already. It was slated to come out on the Vita, and they didn't want to put a game out on the Vita. So I have a suspicion somewhere that they still want to put that out. And I think an exclusive GTA on the Switch would, I mean, I wouldn't want to say sell systems because you currently can't find them right now because of Animal Crossing. But when systems come back in stock, it'll sell the rest of them out. Plus, I mean, we only have Saints Row right now, which Saints Row 3 plays and runs really well on the Switch, but that's the only thing like that we have right now, so there's literally no competition for it pretty much, and it would obviously GTA is a system seller, and that would absolutely kill on a portable system like that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Um, Next one for me, only because I'm still third degree butthurt about them putting it on the Wii U, and I never had a Wii U, is Fatal Frame. I'm not sure if the exclusivity still lays with Nintendo or not, but I just know that they need to either re-release Fatal Frame 5 on the Switch or come out with a new one or just I don't know, something that's not making me as sad as I am. Um Altogether put survival horror games on the Switch that aren't Resident Evil. I like the Resident Evil games, but that's all that we have on there. Come out with, original ones or put something else on there. I just think that that's a very untapped market on the Switch itself. And Fatal Frame is awesome, and I'd love to have that again. And the final one that's definitely not going to happen because it would break the internet and our spines is a Pokemon Snap. I would just say a Pokemon Snap like remaster. I don't know if they would be interested in doing one with more updated stuff and more updated features, but just a version of it for the Switch, remastered, put motion controls in, so you can like move around with the Switch and take the pictures and make it compatible with Labo VR. I don't think that's asking too much. Because if they can make Breath of the Wild compatible, they should be able to make something like that. I just think that that would be really cool. Being able to actually move the Labo around and take the pictures and all that kind of stuff. That could be anyone within the age group of people who played Pokemon Snap would eat that up like crazy. The same way that everybody I know bought Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, it'd be the same exact thing.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah. On that too, I put a Pokemon Stadium style game again. Even if it's just, no story mode, nothing like that, just straight the competitive battling scene like that. I think that there's still a place for that somewhere in there. Have every Pokemon that's out now, all the battle types, everything like that. Have it kind of like the Pokemon Showdown you can download on PC, but just on the Switch. Something kind of like that. Even if it's not a full game and it's just a mobile game or something, I think that that would be something that'd be able to be snatched up pretty good, I think.
Yeah, pretty much anything Pokemon will sell. And I kind of went a similar route with some possible Pokemon stuff. For some reason, I didn't think of Pokken Tournament, but I did think more along the lines of like God willing Snap, and then something like a Stadium or Coliseum or something like that.
Right, right.
I don't know why I didn't think of Pokken Tournament. Like it's a good game and everything. I just for some reason it just doesn't cross my mind that often.
It's kind of an underground niche game. Like, nobody ever really talks about it outside of the Pokken tournament scene itself. It's kind of one of those. The last one I had on here, which I put right in between Wild Card and Probable, just because it'd be a good time release for it, is like Mario Golf. I think that since they already have Aces out, and if they want to push something else in Mario, I think another sports game would be good. Um, I legitimately think that it's hilarious that Mario and Sonic 2020 Olympics is a thing, because yeah, that's obviously not happening. But if they're trying to do something else like that, I think that Mario Golf would be the most welcome, just because there's not a golf game out, and those ones usually did the best out of between the tennis and the golf and the strikers and all that. I think that that one usually was the one that did the best, and that's the one that I personally would be most interested in.
So what? You're not gonna push and hope that they make a Mario is missing too?
No, no, he's been found. We found him.
Yeah, I mean, unless they have like a sequel to Odyssey or something like that ready to go, if they want something Mario related that isn't what the first thing on my list was, it probably would be like Mario Golf.
Mm,
That said, I had pushed for it, and they did confirm it just a couple days ago at the time of this recording. A new Paper Mario.
mm,
One of the few that wasn't really tapped on the Switch in any way, shape, or form, which is surprising as far as their series. I mean, whether it's bringing definitive editions of certain games or whatever, like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe or Donkey Kong, I think it was Tropical Freeze, I can't remember offhand. Things like that, Paper Mario was like the one kind of notable exception to that, and bring it in any way, shape, or form makes sense.
That's honestly the hardest thing about thinking about Nintendo is him and I had to sit here and rack our brains for hours thinking of franchises that haven't been put on the Switch yet, because they've just been machine gun firing every franchise that they can, with the exception of Metroid that I named. Like, literally every Nintendo property you can think of has had a sequel on the Switch so far.
Yeah, a sequel or some kind of definitive version or what
Right.
have you. I mean, you have Captain Toad, you have Mario Kart, and the Donkey Kong,
Yoshi, Kirby, everybody, yeah, everyone's got their games out.
which I wouldn't be surprised to see a new game for any of those series. And I kind of allude to that. My last thing of being more of a wild card would be I have a new Donkey Kong. I kind of mix them together. A new Donkey Kong or a Mario Kart or something like that. The Donkey Kong, it could be another like Donkey Kong Country style. It'd be cool to see another kind of full fledged platformer Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but considering when Mario Kart 8 initially came out, and then we've had Deluxe for a couple of years, maybe at least a little hint of presumably they'd call it Mario Kart 9 unless they dropped the numbering style. I think it would be a nice little teaser kick to get just a little something about it. Don't think it'd be anywhere close to Showtime. Probably something for mid to late next year.
Right.
But
Yeah, as good as Mario Kart 8 is, I mean, we've technically been playing the game for two generations. Because anyone that had a Wii U, it's essentially you're playing the same game over again. But, I mean, they mastered it so damn good, it's going to be like, are we legitimately ever going to see another Smash Brothers? Because they have every character in there now, and, like, all the maps and everything. Like, it's just going to be one of those weird things. They're going to keep updating this, or are we gonna next generation of systems? Are we gonna get a full, complete rebuild of the series? Like, it's kind of at that same point that Smash Brothers is right now.
Well, I mean, Nintendo's a more unique case just because of the art style they use for a lot of things, but
Mhm.
much like a lot of remasters of games that, in the grand scheme, aren't that old, at least generation wise, even just plain year wise, getting definitive editions, remasters, updated texture packs, or what have you, just available for even like PC side for different games. Like, it's possible, if not probable, that they would go along that route at least as a stopgap. Like, don't quote me on it; it's been a while, but I would swear that I had read a few things, and it could have just been speculation from uh, news writers and everything that like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was supposed to be a. Obviously, it wasn't a release title for the Switch, but a close to release title to act as a bit of a stopgap, for a lack of a better term. So
Right. Yeah.
I'd put almost a more higher chance of Mario Kart than another Donkey Kong, but
Mhm.
those were the very ass end of my list. But um, I would say another. It's not a Mario series per se, but has a supporting character in it, and it hasn't been tapped. Would be another WarioWare or WarioWare esque game. They're always fun.
Mhm.
I mean, Luigi got his love with Luigi's Mansion. We've got a lot of the other sub series. Why not another WarioWare game? Better yet, maybe you can they could finally give the fans what they've been asking for a while and give Waluigi a game. Or they could just keep playing into the meme of Waluigi just doesn't deserve a game and never give him a game. Um, I too had Metroid down. It's time that we either hear date and info on Metroid, or we just straight up get a notice of the cancellation of the Metroid game that was announced. I don't think it'd be the end of the series. I don't necessarily think it would mean that we wouldn't get a Metroid game on the Switch at some point. But it's getting to the do or die point. People are finicky with low attention spans, and they want to know, they want it now. Just give us a little something.
I think that if they're going to not release Metroid 4, which I think that I'd be more surprised if it didn't release here soon, they're going to give us the remaster trilogy.
Yeah, there could be a
That would be
possibility.
a good holdover to make up for switching companies and restarting it probably 3 or 4 times and all that. Now, granted, I want them to get it right.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Because they could very easily disappoint me in a Metroid, like immensely. Like if it's not Samus, I'm probably not gonna buy it. That's how easily disappointed I would be. But
I mean they kind of did that with what was it, Federation Force or whatever, and that's kind of turned a lot of people off.
mm,
Wasn't a bad game from what I recall, but you know you got kind of have to. If you're gonna do something like that, you got to give people the bread and butter first and foremost.
you've got to do what 343 and the Coalition did and play it very, very safe with the first game to let everybody know that that game is in good hands, and then put your own ideas in on the second game.
Yeah. Then I had a little bit more about Rare in there, as I alluded to with the in the first part of this with Microsoft, a possible update to Rare Replay. Part
Mm-hmm.
of that could be having Rare Replay on the Switch. And if they have that kind of interplay going there, possibly could open up having Donkey Kong 64 available.
Right.
Could open up the possibility if they could get the movie license as well for GoldenEye 64. And not for nothing, they could even, this little side thing, not that I don't think Nintendo would be capable of it in and of themselves, but between the extra interplay of talking to Microsoft and Rare, seeing how they managed to get those games working, like the N64 era games working on more modern hardware, and a little bit of news that came out about a week and a half or so ago about source code leaking of the Nintendo 64, the Wii, and the GameCube. Could altogether be possible that Nintendo's working towards, just in general, instead of having like a rare replay where you could have Donkey Kong 64 or GoldenEye, they could be working towards having N64 uh, games on the Switch,
Mm-hmm.
or possibly being ready to drop a N64 classic, which I think we could talk about that a little bit, but the way that we talked about it before, we might almost want to shelve that and possibly do a separate video on the thoughts about what that could potentially be
Yeah,
separately.
because that would definitely be the biggest one that has came out, just because of the games, the amount of controllers, all that kind of stuff with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, really, about my last thing, Nintendo wise, is I would just love to see another game in the F Zero series. It was a series that was generally overshadowed by Mario Kart as far as racers on Nintendo consoles were concerned,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a damn good series. More so than Super Mario Kart, I could go and play F Zero on Super Nintendo and have a bit more fun with that. F Zero X on Nintendo 64, I played that probably about as much as I did Mario Kart 64 back in the heyday of that era. I find myself going back and playing Mario Kart 64 a bit more often now? Yes, for nostalgia's sake, and just because it's a bit more conducive to playing with friends when you're just screwing around, maybe getting together, having a few drinks or something like that.
Right.
But F Zero was a good series, and even if Nintendo doesn't want to put it together themselves, the last two that came out, AX and was it DX, they were basically headed up by Sega, and they ran beautifully. They looked beautiful. They were on the GameCube and a arcade cabinet that was based off of GameCube architecture, respectively. And honestly, they looked like they could probably hold their own on being games built for like the 360 or the PS3. That's how good they were in that era.
Mm-hmm.
So you could do it back then. Why don't they see if they could do it again now, or hand it off to someone else if they don't want to do it themselves?
Yeah,
That,
they're throwing so many other franchises out there. They might as well just throw everything out and see what sticks.
other than putting their captain on in various cameo roles and on Smash Brothers and everything, there hasn't really been a lot of F Zero love for a while.
Mm-hmm.
A couple, one or two maps in Mario Kart 8, which good on them to have Mute City in there, but give it some love. It's an old bygone franchise that I'd like to see come back. I mean, there's a few others that I would hope for as well to an extent, but that's the one that I would really think would be viable, and I think would not only be viable but be a good possibility.
Yeah.
There's some that I think would do well, but I don't think would be touched for whatever reason. But save those for a different day.
Yep, that is fair. Nintendo's going to be the wild one. Even though the other guys have systems coming out, Nintendo could still. sneak in there and be the underdog swinging with something crazy. All right, the illustrious third party. That's basically EA, Ubisoft, Square. I mean, anybody else, Blizzard, anything else like that. That's not the main three, and basically any multi-platform game is basically we just kind of threw up a big pile on a sheet of paper and we're gonna scream it now.
Yeah. Third party section is going to be the video game talking equivalent of a wrestling battle royale. And if you
Yeah,
don't know what
pretty
that
much.
is, it's basically it's a clusterfuck.
Yeah, pretty
Let's get
much.
ready to rumble.
Yep, 30 games in, nobody wins. Right. um, I guess I'll start with the probable one, the third party here. I'll run down. I got a few of them listed here. A few of them said that they're not coming out, but I don't believe that shit one bit. So, I mean, like, the companies that make the game said that they're not coming out, and I still don't believe that. Because I don't trust any one game. I don't trust them. Not one bit. First one on my list is Dino Crisis. Um, Heard through the grapevine that they are actually working on rebuilding the engines and rebuilding everything like that to try to bring some of those classic games back. And Dino Crisis is one of them. I think it's more likely than the other game that I've heard that they're working on, which is in my wild card. But how good would Dino Crisis be on this new generation? Like, seriously. There's not enough dinosaur games to begin with, but dude, a dinosaur survival horror game would be so damn good.
It'd be good on this generation. We talked a little bit about this in private before, and yeah, it's been a bit too long for a
Yeah,
lot of these. And Dino Crisis, yeah, that's going for the old school there.
even just like a dinosaur game in general, like we've got Ark and stuff like that, and it can be argued we've got Horizon Zero Dawn, but like still, like dinosaurs should be a more prevalent part of video gaming, especially with these graphics getting better and everything. Like imagine a survival horror dinosaur game with ray tracing and volumetric lighting and all that kind of crazy stuff that's going on. That'd be frankly terrifying. um, Next one here that they said is not coming out this year, which I do not believe, is a new Battlefield. This will be basically the first console launch that I can think of in recent history that hasn't had a Battlefield on it, if that's true. And I really doubt that. They've been really quiet on Battlefield. That really, everything around that has been, everything around kind of EA and stuff that's not Madden has been really quiet lately. And I just find that a little bit weird. And it's been, yeah, we haven't even heard like a rumbling of it. I mean, obviously we got the Call of Duty coming out, that's a given there. But seeing it as it's been so long since anything Battlefield has came out, I think that they could come out swinging as a launch game for both of the new systems. Maybe when we start hearing stuff here next month or in a couple weeks, whenever they start actually opening the floodgates, I would be more surprised than not if there's not a Battlefield in there somewhere, at least hinted at. If it's not going to be a release title, somebody's going to bring it up this year and talk about it. There's no question there. Um, Next one down on the list for me is confirmed to be worked on, I guess. Another one that's probably going to be an early one is Resident Evil 8. Like, legitimately the next Resident Evil, not just like a remaster or remake or something. I'm guessing they're probably going to go first person again, just because of how well 7 did in first person. I don't know which way they're going to go with it, though, because they've been kind of going back and forth, like, we're going to make this one survival horror, we're going to make this one action. I'm down for either one. I'm not a person that hates on the action heavy Resident Evils. I think that there's a place for both of them in this world. But if you want to make it on a cycle like that, where one of them's in the style of 7, and then some of them are in the style of 5, then yeah, if you want to switch that every year, that's cool with me. I'll probably get burned at the stake for saying something like that, but
Yeah, to some people, saying something like that would be equivalent to saying, "Well, I'm betting the next game's going to be somehow they're going to way to put a game in the fourth person instead of third person, and it's going to be a dating sim version
yeah, right.
like that." But you know, they can do what they want to do. I haven't seen a Resident Evil game that's been bad. I've seen some that have been a little bit lackluster, but
Yeah, I've played through and enjoyed all of them, regardless of what, you know what I mean, style they were or whatever. But next one for me is kind of on the fence because they keep coming out with the damn DLC for it, and I don't know if they're ever gonna stop. And that's a new Sims game. I don't know. They really like their DLC. Eventually, they're gonna have to come out with a new game. But this game has had like, God, if I said 100 DLC packs, I don't think I'd be exaggerating that much.
no, between like DLC of any kind of
Stuff
subscription.
packs and game packs, yeah, it's got to be close to the triple digits. I can't even count that high, or else I'd let you guys know.
I'm sure if we counted each individual one of those, since they all technically have to have individual like barcodes, serial codes, and everything, like for
Right.
being sold. If you counted each one of those individually, although not actual full fledged games, it probably would be the most expansive series in all of video gaming
Yeah.
as far as titles were concerned.
Yeah, that's fair. Like they have as much DLC available for that as they do for Rock Band.
Yeah, I mean, compared to like Rock Band or previously Guitar Hero or anything like that, the simple fact of the matter is like while being a bit of a strung out comparison there, like and stretching for most expansive there. I mean, a lot of those were at least at one point sold not just by EA, not just through like a storefront in the game or whatever. Like it was sold in stores or online via retailers. So that's what I was getting at with the titles there and having their own serial numbers for like
hmm
being recognized with barcodes and stuff.
just an insulting amount of SKUs on it.
Yeah,
But I mean, the Sims is definitely due for an upgrade. It's been a while that Sims 4 has been out. Use some of the new technologies. God forbid, put them on console. Because Sims 4 on console is pretty damn close to the PC version, which is impressive. So I want to see something like that. Bring back split screen. I mean, come on. That's like the
yeah.
one thing that console versions had over the PC version, even though they were cut way back and highly limited. You had that split screen co op on there, and that legitimately made it so that I played the console versions of The Sims more on PS2 than I played The Sims on PC because of that.
Yeah, I mean, even if they don't build a full new Sims game like a Sims 5 or whatever, they could iterate on the current one. Again, with the amount of DLC they put out, they could easily retrofit it with a better graphical style. All of what some different companies like Mojang's done with Minecraft and stuff, where you could go
Yeah, right.
RTX on and stuff like that, which would make it look even better on the console since they'll be able to do the ray tracing. And
Just like a big overhaul kind of deal. Yeah.
they either don't want to or aren't ready to put another full fledged game out. Maybe going for one of the older sub series, like another Herbs game or something more in the vein of like The Sims busting out from back in the Xbox and PS2 era.
Or if you really want to make some money, come out with a Game of the Year version. Say, okay, we're done making DLC. We're going to work on The Sims 5. Here's a $100 version of the game that comes with every single thing we've ever released for the game.
Probably would be almost more work than it would be worth, but they could also go the route of maybe maybe pulling a update and remaster using one of the current, more current versions of the game, whether it be like 3 or 4, and pulling forward, the original Sims and its DLC stuff in The Sims 2.
Yeah, right.
Like I said, it might be more trouble than it would be worth, but it would be neat.
Mm-hmm. The next one, it seems EA's getting a lot of love here, but EA's been really damn quiet, and I'm suspicious with it, because you got like Ubisoft literally dumping everything out on the table. We
Yeah.
know what they're making for the next 2 years, but EA's been silent.
Which,
Um,
to be fair, a lot of times they are, and they've got a lot of dormant franchises anyway,
yeah,
so
true.
I'd like to see.
The next one on the list, they straight said on their Twitter that they're not making, but I think that's a goddamn lie, and that would be Titanfall 3. They're making Titanfall 3. I mean, come on.
I mean, if they're not working on it now, they're going to make it eventually, or something in that universe, even if it's not called Titanfall 3 per se.
Right, like they've used Apex Legends. They've made good money off of that cuz that is a very good that's just a very good game. Everyone freaked out when it went free and the handling and everything and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's a very well built, very good, fun game that could very easily be iterated on if they could run it to death and or build a new Titanfall game or something else. Again, that whole franchise there.
Right. It's
By
just
the way, they probably should.
Titanfall was too fun of a franchise and ran too damn good to not get a sequel. Like Titanfall 2 was one of the best shooters I've played. Definitely majorly underrated. It got buried that year, of course.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for Call of Duty and Battlefield and stuff coming out, it would have been the best shooter of that year because it was damn good.
I mean, this will be a bit controversial, but I'll say it. Even Titanfall, the first Titanfall, wasn't bad. I
No,
think
it had really good ideas.
I
Yeah.
think it got a hard rap because everyone was expecting a new Mech Assault game after all these years, and sorry, it wasn't going to be exactly that. So
And the fact that it was an online only kind of game, but the ideas that they threw in there are and that still have in 2 are some really good ideas that really freshen up a first person shooter. It
yeah,
doesn't feel like you're playing Call of Duty or anything. When you've got all those other NPCs running around too that are also shooting at you and then you have the other players in there, it makes all of the maps feel super busy. And you always get that tingly feeling when you slam your Titan down in the middle of the map. All right, last one for the probable, and last time I'll be making fun of EA for a little bit, but we are due for a Dragon Age since we've had the Mass Effect, and they're pondering the Mass Effect trilogy. I don't know if that's probably going to happen. That'd be a good idea.
yeah, I think that's more probable than possible at this point. Like, I think it's
Yeah.
going to happen. There's been enough rumblings of that, and I'll get to that as
Mm-hmm.
well. But
I think that Dragon Age would be. I mean, I don't know if they, buried it after Andromeda. I don't know what they were feeling after that. I know that it's two different teams, but I don't know if they're like, hey, let's hold off on that for a bit, or if they're still going gung ho with it. But that's another one that, dude, it's been what two E3s ago that we saw that. It's been a little while since we only saw like a teaser, like we saw concept art drawn on a napkin is what we saw for Dragon Age. So it's time to hear something at least, if not have a release date. Like I'm thinking that would be another good one to come out on the system with, because even if your game's not that great and it's a console and it's like it launches with a console, it's still gonna sell because there's not going to be that many new games out. So, but yep, they can come out with another Dragon Age. I'll
yeah,
allow it.
yeah.
Just kind of want to make sure that BioWare is doing all right. I kind of want to hear something from them. I don't want
Well,
them. I don't want them to die, and I haven't seen any bubbles come up in a while. So,
they're always doing something, and even Andromeda wasn't that bad. I feel like Andromeda was a bit haphazardly rushed.
if you play it post patches, it's a perfectly fine Mass Effect game.
Yes, which I've had the benefit of mostly playing it like that.
Yeah.
For shits and giggles, I kind of detuned it on PC to more of its original state, and I wouldn't recommend that. I'm pretty sure I got put on a list by the NSA or something like that, and probably violated the Geneva Convention doing that, but I still don't necessarily put the blame completely on them for that. They were kind of rushed in that.
Yeah.
Not completely excusable, but it makes it a bit more understandable.
But I
It's an
mean,
explanation, not an excuse.
we can't really talk about Andromeda anymore since WWE 2K20 came out. So, to be fair, I mean, that's kind of the new hotness when it comes to utter fucking train wrecks.
Well, yeah, and I mean, even between those two, you had Fallout 76 and No Man's Sky, which both of those have made a pretty good glow up on themselves.
No Man's Sky got a hell of a lot better.
Apparently, so is 76. I haven't messed with it in quite
I've
some
heard that it
time.
holds a stable frame rate now, which that's good because I've played it on PS4, PC, and Xbox One X. Wasn't able to get a stable frame rate on any of them, but I've heard that they fixed it and made it so that it runs 30, which is a hell of a lot better than whatever number that was thrown up on my screen.
Well, to be fair, when it first came out, it couldn't do anything quite stable enough.
Oh
But
yeah,
like I said, I've heard good things about how it's been doing since I think it was like the Wastelanders expansion came out.
the game
But
itself is awesome. It's a really good idea. If you go into it with the right mindset and you can get the game to run steady, yeah, it's a lot better than people are saying.
warned you guys we are going to be digressing here different ways, but um, and kind of be able to circle back around to the last kind of two things there, or two big series is there in just a moment. But I think I'm hopping on the hype train. I think my most probable third party announcement, though I think they might fuck with us a little bit and hold off a little bit longer than the traditional E3 time to say anything. It's gonna be Grand Theft Auto 6.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be ready for another year and a half, 2 years, but it's gonna be Grand Theft Auto 6 getting announced.
They're gonna lay their dick on the table and break it because they can. They've got something to show for GTA 6, I guarantee it. A sizzle reel, a 30-second teaser, something. They've got something to show for it, I know it.
Yeah, and again, this list is a kind of mix, but also kind of more probable to less probable. But going down into the depths of it somewhat, I also had kind of a similar vein to what you had talked about with Nintendo about bringing a GTA over there, whether it was an exclusive, like maybe finally releasing San Andreas stories, or maybe doing a remaster or a collection. Like I think they could pull that off.
They could put the 3D era on there. They did it on the PS2. Put 3 Vice City and San Andreas on there. That'd be, even if you don't really upres them that much, people would buy the shit out of that.
Yeah, and I think alongside it, like I mean, we've seen, especially from the PC side, mods that have made the older games look graphically better,
Mm-hmm.
even if they don't build everything up from the ground up.
Throw some
I
polish
think
and
they
some
could bring
extra
them together and
texture,
put a
yeah.
collection together. Maybe we'll see the unreleased San Andreas stories, but I'm putting that as less likely than yeah, they're just gonna come in big dick swinging with Grand Theft Auto 6, and even though everyone's been talking about it being confirmed but not being confirmed for especially the last month and a half now, they're still gonna break the internet for at least 5 minutes before they like completely break it for about 5 minutes before everyone even has a chance to kind of grasp what they heard for that. Because if even half the rumors are true, it'll put Grand Theft Auto 5 to shame.
Yeah, if they show a splash logo at the end of whoever does their showing, if they put a splash logo that has a Roman numeral 6 on it, people are gonna lose their fucking shit and the internet's gonna break. If it's a 3-second teaser trailer.
Bonus points to Ubisoft if they fuck with people and just do for some reason put Civ 6 up.
bonus points to fucking Volition if they do it. That'd be dope. They start their Saints Row 5 trailer as fucking GTA 6.
Turns out they're both the same. I'm for it.
Yeah, right.
Pardon the possible hissing in the background. My cats have no manners towards each other, me, anyone. But so my next thing on the list is I have Mass Effect slash Dragon Age there because pretty much the high rumors for a at least a trilogy of the first three Mass Effects being brought forward. And I think if they go ahead and do that first, like both series are ripe for timing for bringing something out. I think if they bring out a trilogy for Mass Effect, then they'll bring out a full-fledged Dragon Age next.
Mm-hmm.
Then they might flip the script, and we might get like a Dragon Age collection, and then another Mass Effect game, brand new.
Yeah, they're gonna have to bring out something to make padding money to build the next one.
I mean, I think they'd have roughly enough money for. Like I said, they toil in secret for a while, but they're always busy. And for
Yeah.
better or worse, they're one of the golden geese of Electronic Arts. So they're not gonna. Well, I shouldn't say they're not gonna just let them die. That would be a very EA thing to do. So, um, controversial side of it, wouldn't be mad if the next Mass Effect game played off of the storyline of Andromeda.
Right.
The game was a buggy mess at the beginning, but I like the storyline within reason. I'd like to see some more go on with it, and you can have your cake and eat it too. Especially since at the end of Mass Effect 3, pretty much based on any of the storylines and then based on the one that they preferred, you in some way, shape, or form end up with Reaper Tech. I could see it being within reason for if they go with Canon Shepard being alive, Shepard or parts of his crew or whatever heading out to join the Andromeda expedition, having the tech to be able to do that, possibly showing up, saving their asses a third or half of the way into the game, and helping them out in the second act and beyond, having a good integration there, give the
Mm-hmm.
kind of quote unquote star power that it needs while continuing a story that really deserves to have at least a little bit more going for it.
Yeah, I'd be okay with another trilogy starting with Andromeda.
Now, good old friends at Bethesda, we brought up Fallout 76 and it having a bit of a turnaround for itself, and that's good. There was another Fallout game that was mentioned, what it have been, 2 years ago now, roughly? And we
Yeah,
haven't
at
heard
least.
anything about it. 2 or 3 years ago. Was it? I forget if it was like right before ish 76 was coming out, or if it was announced somewhat alongside it. I can't remember
I
exactly,
think it
but
was at the end of the same presentation as 76.
and it was Fallout Miami. Haven't heard anything about it. even if it doesn't come to fruition, if they decide not to go ahead with making Miami, probably going to hear at least a little something about another Fallout game. Don't think it's going to be ready because they've been working on a little something called the Elder Scrolls.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's what all of their shit's going towards. Like
I mean,
that.
they've got a fair enough team that they probably have some people working on some other stuff, but probably a good chunk of the ones that aren't working on that are doing incremental improvements and expansions upon 76, along with probably some outside people. So who knows? I mean, even if it's just a little teaser scroll or whatever, all of what they did with the Elder Scrolls so far, I'll take it. And then kind of the last, I have kind of two things that I think are a bit more probable to see something, but it's kind of in the middle. Wild card to probable for seeing one of them for seeing
Mm-hmm.
something this year, one of them for seeing something in general. The one for this year, which you had, is coming hopefully within this year, would be the next Battlefield game.
Yeah.
They're obviously going to make something else. When exactly it's going to be out, I don't know. I'd hope we would hear something and they would either have it ready for holiday season or to come out in spring.
I would love a launch title, but I'm thinking spring, man.
Yeah, as much as it would be cool to see a Battlefield out to be able to basically, if we get a get Call of Duty at the normal time this year to have a at least three-way head of Call of Duty versus a Battlefield versus Halo Infinite.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not, it's one of those things like don't rush it. If it's not ready to go, don't put it out yet. But I do think we'll hear at least a little something. Mind you guys, especially as we go through some of these third parties, best we could hope for some of it would be again just a little teaser piece through like a quick video montage, a flash on the screen of a logo or emblem. Obviously, we'd love to see a whole hell of a lot more of all of them, but
Yeah.
we'd love to see all of them in general. But and then the other one, just I literally have anything Valve Orange Box esque. Obviously, they put out Half Life Alex, and it's to say it's gotten generally positive reviews, as I believe, a bit of an understatement. And I think
Yeah.
as time's worn on a little bit, it's not even so much just the oh my god, it's a Half Life game hype train. Like it's genuinely garnered what it should for it.
Yeah. They everyone thought that they were sleeping, and they just happened to come out with like the best built, best looking, best functioning VR game ever made. So
And
people
even if
are
we
like,
don't get
"Oh
another,
shit, we forgot about Valve."
yeah, even if we don't get another full fledged Half Life game yet, I think maybe something else from the Orange Box, whether it plays into VR or not, something else that we saw from that or that played off of the framework that was built by Half Life and by Valve in general, like that kind of inner circle of the games there, your Portals and your Left for Deads and stuff like that. Like either one of those could work very well in VR or not, and kind of deserve another new game coming out here soon. Nothing wrong with the old ones, but you know, sure, Lord Gaven wants to make some more money, so
Yeah, that's fair.
that kind of, other than a bit of a little cheater here of just saying, I think we might see some fairly expansive DLC for two of my favorite looty shooty exploration games of Borderlands 3 and The Outer Worlds. That pretty much covers the more probable than wild card from my side.
Hmm. Um, for me, wild cards. Um, kind of some weird ones, I would say. The first one is this one would actually be a Square. I have a couple of Square Enix ones in here. Um, First one would be Parasite Eve because that is another one that I've heard rumblings that they are trying to bring that series back. And anyone that has played that series knows that it needs to make a comeback because it was insanely awesome. Most people have probably forgotten about it or never heard about it, which is kind of why it might not come out. But if they can make it come out in a big badass way to draw people's attention, then it'll work. Um, Second one is a game that was in production 2 years ago, but has literally went completely dead. The newest thing I found was like 2018, and that is the Fear Effect remaster. They had Sedna that came out and sold and actually exists. But yeah, I haven't heard a single damn thing in 2 years about the Fear Effect remaster, remake, whatever the hell they were calling it now. That was one of my favorite games on PlayStation 1 back in the day, and it would be really neat to get that back out here again. Um, we'll just keep on rolling with Square Enix. Um, United Front is no longer a thing, but somebody owns Sleeping Dogs. I don't know who has the rights to it. I think it's the Tomb Raider team, the way that it looks. But that would be another really cool one to bring out
Yeah. Oh
because
yeah.
that was massively underrated. Anyone that's played it will tell you that. And I think that that would be a nice one to bring back and sneak in on these new systems. You could do a lot with that. It was, essentially a Chinese GTA where you played as an undercover cop. Took the place of the true crime games. Eventually evolved into Sleeping Dogs. I still think about that game a lot because it did a lot of things differently than even GTA or Saints have. It was kind of its own little thing there, spin off of all of both of those, but still its own different thing. But somebody's got it floating around. Obviously, the Tomb Raider team has been busy making the prequel trilogy, their origin trilogy, but that'd be a neat one to come out of left field. I think that'd be one of the biggest left field ones here that people would still remember. And my last one on there, which I recently added, I was thinking about it, but they are releasing a full remaster of the first Crisis game. And I think they're doing that to fund Crisis 4. Because what other game would you come out with to show off ray tracing and fancy graphics and stuff than a Crisis game? Seeing as how we completely missed out on it for the current or last generation, whenever you're listening to this, there was nothing on the PS4 or Xbox One involving Crisis. I think it'd be definitely a nice time for that. It'd be a nice last gen game franchise to bring back. Just come back swinging with that for sure. But EA and their game releases. R.I.P. Army of Two.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna get into it with EA here in a bit, but well, for me, I think we might. I would love to hear another little hint going alongside, like maybe hearing hints of something like a Fallout or something like that. I think we might hear a little something about the future of the Wolfenstein series, whether it's another sub game or a full fledged game. Might not hear much, but I think we'll hear something. I hope we hear something.
Those have just been such good games back to back that they're definitely going to keep making them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you haven't tried the VR game, try it. If you haven't played or given a fair chance to Youngblood, it plays pretty damn good. Like you have to give it a fair shake, especially if you're playing it with the single player, because it is a little bit different, obviously, than just running as BJ by himself. But they've all been good, and I don't see why they would want to stop that train a rolling there for another Wolfenstein game. Like just hold it off for a while. Like say something. They're probably gonna say something.
Especially since Doom is out now, like Doom Eternal is like, hey, we're done with that. They're working on something else with that engine and everything.
Yeah.
And I majorly appreciated them making a co-op. So I would definitely support that going forward.
I was trying to decide which here, pacing back and forth, trying to decide which way I want to go first here. Whether I want to just, because I'm going into two different Ubisoft ones here. The more probable game series that we'll see more from, we don't hear anything this year, probably within the next year or so, would be another Far Cry game.
Yeah.
It's another series that's been going pretty strong. It's got its critiques about similarities in the way certain missions play out, the way in general the game plays out, for better or worse, but they haven't necessarily made one that hasn't played well. Primal had its critics. Probably the weakest one that they put out since Blood Dragon, but 5 and New Dawn were pretty damn good.
Yeah,
so.
5 was probably my favorite out of all of them, just because they took everything they were doing before and just kind of perfected it. Like, for me, that's the quintessential Far Cry. It's funny it takes place in America. You'd think it'd be one of the more exotic ones, but.
See, I think I slightly give the edge to New Dawn, even though it's sort of like a spin-off.
Mm-hmm.
But 5, yeah, was perfectly damn good in its own right. I think also I would love to hear anything Tom Clancy. They've been running pretty strong with the Division 2. I'd love to hear about another Splinter Cell game. And also they've been running pretty good with Ghost Recon, with Breakpoint being out there, and before that with Wildlands being out there, which both of them are still selling pretty good. So,
While this is all still relevant, um, what do you think they're going to call Quarantine? They're obviously not going to call it Quarantine anymore.
oh, they might very well call it Quarantine just to be hilarious.
That's just crazy. Like, if you're listening to this video in 5 years from now, it's gonna be hilarious. Like, they announced the game. It was like supposed to. It's probably still gonna come out with all this shit going on. They're probably gonna change the name of it. It's
Yeah,
just such a weird coincidence that they announced a game called Quarantine, and then like 2 months later, the world just flipped off the fucking power switch.
yeah, they couldn't have had better timing for that.
Right.
Definitely could use it for marketing advantage if they play it right.
Oh yeah, for sure. And how like, I mean, all their games are good like that though. Like like the story in the Division and shit is kind of falls along the same kind of like illness pandemic kind of thing and all that too. So they might keep it quarantine.
Now for me to move towards EA a bit more. I would love to see, and I know you would too, and I'm surprised you didn't really mention much of this. Would love to see Need for Speed Underground.
God, that'd be. I would trade everything on my list. to see a legitimate Underground 3.
I would settle for remasters of 1 and 2,
Yeah,
but to see a legitimate third one would be pretty damn great as well.
that'd be up there with Resistance and Twisted Metal for me, for sure.
Yeah. And now to rip on them a bit. Dormant series that they could use. I enjoyed playing it. Dead Space.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, it suffers a little bit of a problem that EA Redwood Shores, also known as Visceral Games, kind of got murderized by EA, but they would still obviously own Dead Space. They probably still have at least a handful of the people that worked on the previous ones. I hope we see more from the franchise, and I hope if we do that it's not disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Though if the change in my tone is saying anything, I'm not really holding my breath on it.
EA's good for if one of their games does a half flop, they'll never make a game in that franchise again, and Dead Space 3 did half of a flop. So it's the same with Army of Two. We're never going to see another one of those again, even though I would absolutely love one. The third game in that one flopped, so they're never going to make it again. They're not even going to stick their neck out for it.
Yeah, yeah. Then to play off, partially off of the closure of Visceral, the last thing that the major thing that they were working on was called Project Ragtag.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a evolution, rebirth, hope springs eternal. Since EA, if you don't know, EA has the exclusive rights to making Star Wars games for Disney, since Disney axed LucasArts and axed Disney Interactive and all of their studios. Ragtag was kind of the evolution of what the ubiquitous Star Wars 1313 was supposed to be, which I would love to see it reappear.
Yeah, especially if they still have fucking Amy Henning at the helm of it, because she was the director for Uncharted. So I'm all for that.
Will we see the one of those? It's hard to say. The time of this recording, just to break the well, not that there really is a fourth wall to this, but we're recording this very technically on the 20th of May in 2020, and about a day or two before this, like I'd been thinking about 1313 for a while when I had it on the list, and it just so happened that I was watching some stuff from SVG, and they were talking about 1313 and why it probably wouldn't happen. You could go and find that stuff, but basically it equates to the long and short of what basically was just said there. 1313 was being worked on by LucasArts, Star Wars and LucasArts and Lucasfilms, and George Lucas's soul was bought by Disney. Disney shut down LucasArts, which basically stalled and killed 1313 as it was. Had a similar game called Project Ragtag that was in the works with Visceral, brought in Amy Hennig, and then they decided to basically kill Visceral, and it kind of killed Project Ragtag in the process. I mean, very technically, EA Vancouver was also working on it, which they could probably take up the reins on it if they were given the green light to, but I don't see much hope in seeing it, even with the success that either version, whether it's something new in the vein of Ragtag or bringing 1313 even in name back, even with the success of the Battlefront games, I'm really, really not holding my breath on that.
Yeah, I think you're going to see EA more likely to make another Battlefront game since they're going to have multiplayer and they're going to have the ability to do the microtransactions and shit like that. I just don't see EA doing a primarily single player experience. At
If they
least not in that vein of it. You know what I mean?
if they went that route, they would probably try to distance themselves as much as they could from 1313 and would
Mm-hmm.
almost do another like Knights of the Old Republic or maybe an Unleashed or something like that. I, in general, it would be cool to see just a sub game in the Star Wars stuff that isn't necessarily Battlefront. Nothing against it, but we had Republic Commando, Force Unleashed 1 and 2. We had KOTOR. Now we basically just have those and have Battlefront and Lego Star Wars. Nothing wrong with either any of those, but be cool to see a bit more.
Yeah, with that and the newest Star Wars game that's out, I mean, we got a couple now, you know. But yeah, you could give us different genres. We have a action adventure and we have a first person shooter. Give us like an RTS or an RPG or something like that, you know. You got that Star Wars license, start milking it a little bit more, you know.
And slightly more positive note, not so much no ripping or anything, just a bit of hoping to see something. Maybe a new Bioshock game.
True. They're working on something. I can smell it from here.
I'd settle on it could be a new IP, but just play as well as the Bioshock games did.
Yeah.
Now that I've depressed myself with the EA side of that, I think that's yeah, it looks like that's the end of my list. Told you at the beginning we were going to see if we could finish ourselves off by the end of this, and I think I came close.
Right, right. Maybe this will be the year that one of the damn things I write down will actually show up. Last year was a disaster. Oh yeah, I think that out of everything, the probables seem like some of them are just about guaranteed. With everything up in the air here, a lot of our stuff might have been launch games, but might have to be pushed back. I could see that happening too. Potential launch games are now spring based, something like that. So that's another thing too. We might get a super light um, initial first launch of games because of the COVID shit going on.
Well, to be fair, nothing's been completely confirmed, but a lot of analysts from the financial sector and just in general business side and not just on the money side of it but analyzing the economics of getting stuff manufactured, a lot of people are figuring on both Sony and Microsoft having a hard time delivering big numbers of consoles at launch time and for the holiday season.
Mm-hmm.
Most things that I've seen tend to sway that if something like that were going to happen, chances are they're probably still going to release probably in November ish anyway, on a very light amount out there. And most people are estimating that Microsoft will have a slightly easier rebound on it, at least at first. but it's a lot of hearsay. It's a, there's always a crapshoot, and if things for one reason or another are going to hit their deadlines and hit the numbers for manufacture, whether it's copies of discs being put out or carts in Nintendo's case for a lot of their consoles, or the amount of consoles getting out there. But with what's going on currently as of the time of this recording in the world, it's even more of a crapshoot than it normally would be. It's like crapshoot squared. So
Does kind of make the new launch of these two systems a little bit more intriguing because things are being held closer to the chest and literally not able to be shown a lot differently than normal.
yeah,
Because of A being affected by everything. So like we don't know, like it could be up till October that we're still learning about these new systems and stuff instead of everybody all dropping the ball at once. They might not actually have enough parts put together yet to show the whole box. We're probably going to be seeing hollow shells of some of the boxes and shit for a little while.
well, I
But
mean, I wouldn't be surprised roughly. I mean, for some of the photos that we saw, like when they showed off the Series X, it probably wasn't a 100% production model.
right, right,
Seeing photos of the ass ends of them that were marked as dev consoles or test consoles that look roughly similar. And you generally, when you get a bit closer to launch, there are dev and test consoles that basically look anywhere from 80 to 99% similar to the production ones.
yeah, for sure.
I won't say 100% because it could be as simple as sticker placement or fonts being changed for certain things, but with all this going on, could be a slight bit different. I would say just in general, no one get your hopes up too hard, and no one get too pissy if it is hard to get a hold of the consoles at launch, and if the launch, and I'm you can't see me, but I'm doing air quotes right now, but if the launch titles are a bit lacking, because if there's with these issues going on, which are even with work at home for like software developers and stuff like that, it's not going to be the same level of productivity exactly. You're going to lose out on
Mm-hmm.
certain having access to certain things and so on and so forth. Looking in the future, when we look back on it, we're probably going to have to grade it on a scale of on a sliding scale and expand the launch window, like time frame, practically to probably include up and through part of the spring of next year.
Right. So if you're even slightly interested in your systems, the day that they become available, go try to pre-order it. Because I don't think you're going to casually walk into Walmart and pick one up. Which
You might,
that's hard to do normally when the systems launch. But yeah, I would definitely put a pre-order down on it. At least one.
yeah. I mean, don't go overboard, and God forbid, don't become a scalper and a reseller that's trying to make your kids' college tuition money off of these. Like that's that does no one any good. And if you go back and you look through, traditionally it ends up, if you go through doing that, it ends up biting you in the ass in the long run because you get a taste of it, you keep going, and then you get bit with certain things, whether it's new waves of consoles getting put out there and dropping the value of the ones that you have to getting thrown off of selling sites and so on and so forth. Like, just, I wouldn't suggest going down that route. If you can manage to snag up a handful of them and you're getting them for you and your friends or whatever, or family or gifts, even if you are gonna resell one or two, don't take a console. Like if they happen to say each cost maybe half a grand, don't go trying to sell them for 1,500 or whatever. If you're gonna do any kind of markup, don't beat someone over the head to death with them. Sell them for 550, 600, something like that.
Right.
Be a decent human. It's not that hard most of the time. Trust me, I've figured it out.
Yeah, we can accidentally do it sometimes. But I think that that was a very successful E3 ish thing since we're unfortunately not going to have a typical E3.
Well,
Um,
E3 predictions for 2020.
yeah, right, right. We're going to predict about our predictions next time. Um, anything final to add on your end?
I think that little moralistic rant was about it. This has been fun and probably not the last you'll hear from me on Mr. Dr. Inkfish's channel, and or may not down the road be a channel for the captain himself. You never know.
All right, very true. Anybody out there has any suggestions about something they want to hear about, anything like that? I know that him and I are both going to be picking up at least one of the new systems at launch, so there'll be streams of that. Any kind of questions you guys have on it, if they are as tight as they say, and we get lucky enough to get them, and you guys can't or something, feel free ask us any kind of questions. I'll be streaming whatever the hell kind of launch games they're having for it. So, but yeah, thanks for listening and tuning in, and definitely watch the channel. We'll be putting more stuff up soon.
Like, subscribe, and all that other happy horse shit.